another day like any other. But not quite, because I've got you along with me. So this week's video, it's all about money. Money, money, money. But first, let's get to where we're going. I have this theory, right? I think that musicians talk about money to each other. Like when I'm with my musician friends, we quite often end up talking about money. But it's not because you go into music wanting to be rich, right? I think the conversation about money within music tends to be about survival. How can you make enough money to live off your music, of being a musician? That's the conversation. So I guess that's why I'm making this video. For a long time, I thought you had to be Ed Sheeran or Taylor Swift in order to make a full-time living as a musician. But in recent years, I've discovered you don't. Which is why I make the videos like this one, to share how I go about it, in hopes that I can inspire a few of you to do the thing that you really want to do. So that's what today's video is all about. The ways I make money as a musician and how you could probably go about doing it yourself. Now, none of these things are going to make you rich, but hopefully these things can help make you a living by just being a musician. And that's what I do. That's not to say that you can't have a good living as a musician, but all of these points I'm going to raise today, they don't require a big following, they don't require any kind of fame. You don't need to be 1 million subscribers up before you can start making a living as a musician. Probably comes as no surprise that the first method we're going to talk about is busking. So I start with busking because it's by far the easiest, most accessible one for every musician. It requires a very low barrier to entry, and if you're going to start with any of them, then I recommend starting with busking, because busking makes you good. The more you busk, the more you improve, the better you get as a musician, and the more opportunities that will open up.
Turn the lights on, carry me home. Na 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 na. It
also brings opportunities. You get booked for gigs, events, weddings, things like that, through just being seen.
Late night, come home, work sucks, I know.
Now I've got loads of videos on this channel now about busking, about how to busk, how to make more money busking, blah blah blah. So I invite you to check those out if you're considering busking. Thank you. Na 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 some of them, not all of them.
You're mainly a strummer, aren't you?
Strummer, yeah.
I can fingerstyle, but as I get older, everything hurts.
Oh, right.
But I only play because I love it, yeah?
Yeah. That's what it's all about, eh?
I mean, you don't get a lot busking, do you?
No, not really. No. Not relative to other things, no.
Saying so, I will not go. Turn the lights on, carry me home.
What's your name, mate?
Ben.
Ben, do you mind me putting you on my YouTube
No,
channel?
of course, that's awesome.
Your name for it in a minute.
Yeah. This is my artist name, so tag me on that. Here's a little busking tip, exclusive ARP. If you're on a British high street, like a town in the UK, try and set up near a Greggs, because that tends to be where there's the most amount of foot traffic. British people love Greggs.
I heard you crying loud.
There is nothing like busking, man. It's such a good way of like remaining present in the moment, in a high street, and getting to witness like people and being on the receiving end of such kindness and generosity, but also like witnessing like just good things happening, like families out and people kind of just having you know, a time, people living life. It's cool.
I get so tight, you've been thinking about ditching me. No time to search you all around, in case you knew that I'd be found when I come around.
Just finished. That's like three hours and a quarter. So let's see how we've done.
Well, go do what you like. Just make sure you do it wise. Well, I'm a loser and a user, so it's only no accuser to try and drag
I run
me
out of
down.
batteries in my guitar, so I need to go and get some. All in the day in the life. Get the receipt, because I can claim that back on my tax expenses. Solid day here in Littlehampton. Total donations, £130 and 2p. Woo! Now that is a good day of busking. Just love this so much. It never gets old that you can do this and make a living out of it. And I guess that's why I preach it so hard, and that's why I've included it first on this list. And not only that, it is the way I make majority of money. A good 90% of what I earn these days is through busking. Maybe that'll change at some point, who knows? But for the last 2 years it's kind of worked, which is cool. Let's get on this train. I guess I also included it first on the list because I think if you're looking to make a career as a musician, it's the best place to start. Like many things, the better you are, the more potential you have to make a career out of it. You know, a good musician is likely to do better. Through busking, you can become good. If you're a beginner at the moment, if you're just starting out your musical journey, it is going to be the quickest way you'll improve, and you can get paid doing it. It's a win. It's a big win. Back to Brighton. We made it home. So today we made £130 and 2p. Obviously that isn't every day. I'd say that an average day is almost always between £80 and £150 for me, and that usually involves playing 3 to 4 hours. But there are definitely days I come home with a lot less. On Sunday, just gone by, I came back with £18. And that's the nature of busking. To give you a rough idea of my kind of monthly intake, I guess, let me show you my spreadsheet. I think it's important that you treat busking and music just like any other job, and I do. I keep things very professional. I have spreadsheets. I think that the thing is if you want to make a living doing anything, especially something that isn't some kind of salaried job, you just have to do the maths. Like, what do you need to make in order to make it work? And that's something that I sat down and did when I first started this journey. I said this before in another video, but you've got to be organised. Okay, so I've got my little spreadsheet going on here. For example, so in June I made 1,170 from busking. In May, I made 1,129. In April, apparently I didn't do that well. Oh no, it's because I had separate notes, so that was 400. So my actual sum was 1,073. Now my goal is actually 1,600 with busking, but that doesn't always work out that way. When I first started busking, it was only £600 a month, and I gradually worked it up because I figured out more and more as I've gone along. But that's why I have other ways of making money as a musician, which I will go through with you now. Get ready for number 2. See that? That, my friends, is non-busking weather. Busker's least favourite thing. The good news is, today we are doing something different to busking. My second biggest income stream, and the second point I want to talk about making money as a musician. But first we've got to get ready. We've got to get ready to go. I am of course talking about gigs, playing events, weddings, functions, parties, and normal gigs, which is what I have tonight. I'm playing originals, maybe a few covers, and I'm getting paid for it. This is probably the most obvious way to make money as a musician. And many musicians are doing just this to make a living. Where's my stuff? Now the hardest thing about playing events, gigs, function work is getting the gigs and the function work in the first place. Here are some ideas on how to get gigs from me. I've had a fair amount of compliments about my guitar recently, and yes, it is a lovely guitar. I've had it for a very long time, and it's just been through the wars, so as valuable as Gibsons usually are, I don't reckon this one's that valuable to anyone but me. To me, it's probably the most valuable thing I own because of the sentimental value. Me and this piece of wood, we've been through so much together. I feel like part of my soul resides inside it. So yeah, you want to look for gigs. Now, I've been a gigging musician, working musician I guess, for a long time. And although I wasn't always making a full-time income doing it, I've always been doing it in various forms throughout my life. And by far the best way to get gigs and function work and paid shows, surprise, surprise, is by heading out busking. This guitar's broken, by the way. This keeps coming loose. It means I have to stick my hand in the hole and try and tighten it up. Before I was busking, I always sort of relied on trying to get gigs through word of mouth. And one good way, if you don't really want to go busking, or as well as busking, by playing open mic. Most promoters that put on open mics also put on shows. The gig I'm playing tonight, I got that because I played an open mic, and the guy running the open mic also puts on gigs, and he's given me a few paid gigs since. He puts on the open mics to sort of vet the musicians, make sure that we're good, and then he offers you paid gigs. It's just another really good way of getting exposure in real life. There we go, that's nice and tight now. Shouldn't be falling off. The third way of getting function work, and quite a lot of the events I've played recently as well, is online. By putting all these videos of me busking all over social media, it seems that many people are just typing in musician in Brighton, or musician in Guildford, or busker in Southampton, and my videos are coming up, and then they're messaging me saying, hey, we're looking for a busker for this event, we can pay you X amount, and that's how I get the gig. In the past year or so, I'd say that I've had at least one event per month. This summer, just now, I seem to have one every week, if not two. Last week I had 2, this week I've got 2. So I guess the next thing you really want to know about playing events is, how much should you charge to play an event as a musician? It's a good question, so let me go over what I charge, and then maybe you can use that as a basis. One of the cool things about living in Brighton is there's so many pubs and venues and different functions going on every night that you're kind of spoiled for choice. That said, there are a lot of musicians out and about. If you're a busker, then and you spend a bit of time busking out in Brighton, and they might see you. You might get spotted by a promoter and they put you on, and then if they like you, they have you on again, and then again, and then they tell their mate who's also a promoter, and that's kind of how the chain works. The other perk for me living in Brighton is being so close to all these venues and stuff. I don't have to travel very far. When you busk in Brighton, I don't find that I ever make that much in donations compared to other places, but I have found it wonderful for like being booked for gigs and events and stuff. So my rough price guide, what to charge, my rule of thumb at the moment, that's sort of what I go by, is if it's a 30-minute performance, then it's £50 plus travel. If it's an hour, it's £100 plus travel. An hour and a half, 150 plus travel, and anything over that, it's negotiable, but 150 base rate. So far, no one has said no to any of that. I think as musicians, we've got to make sure we are putting value to ourselves. People that moan that musicians don't get paid enough, but then are happy to accept to play for free, like you're part of the problem. Then we should be demanding, you know, that we get paid fairly. Luckily, there are a fair few solid promoters out there who are willing to do it, which is nice, isn't it? All right, let's find this venue.
Stage time, my friends.
Okay, on August Radio Project, I'm gonna play some songs that I like in the hope that maybe you'll like them too. As they were falling, we're stopping and stalling, we're running in circles again. Gotta say that she agreed. She can see exactly what I mean. She said, tell me which way to the beach. The universe for nothing inside my mind is on fire. I'm touched by meaning, is it a feeling what too deeply desire?
Oh my God, that
That's how my bass tricks on me. It all keeps adding up, and I think I'll break it up. Am I just fine? Yeah, yeah, Thank you so much. Shout out to Jack for turning this on. What a vibe.
Alright, let's talk about money-making method number 3 that I occasionally use. But first, I need to wait for my washing to finish. I guess being a full-time musician doesn't mean you escape your domestic duties. That means my washing's done. So yeah, I want to talk about money making method number 3. Now this is one that I think might interest a lot of musicians if they don't already know about it. So we're going to talk about Airgigs, which is this website right here. It's kind of like Fiverr or Upwork, but it's specifically for music. And it's been a way that I've managed to make a bit of money through my time as a full-time musician. Back when I quit my day job, I wasn't really sure what I was meant to do. I'd yet to discover how powerful busking is. And I signed up to a bunch of these online freelance websites like Fiverr, Upwork. And funnily enough, Airgigs actually came through with quite a substantial amount of work. I've yet to have anything from Fiverr or Upwork, and I've been on there for 3 years now. So on my Airgigs profile, you can book me as a songwriter or a session player. And I've had jobs doing both. I must admit the work is infrequent. You definitely couldn't make a full-time living doing this. Or maybe you can if you put a lot of effort into it. I've had maybe about 8 jobs in the last year, 6 of which were songwriting jobs and 2 of which were session. The work has included things like writing melodies and lyrics to punk rock songs, translating a pop song from Mandarin to English. Even though I don't talk Mandarin, they provided me with the translation. It was more of a case of matching up the rhythm and making the lyrics make sense. It was cool job. For each of the songwriting jobs, I charged £250, and as for the session work, it's just £100. I think Airgigs take a 10% cut. As I said, I put literally no effort into promoting myself on Airgigs. I've just literally made a profile, put some cool pictures on, and provided people with some sample work, of which I have loads, because I spent 8 years in a band with multiple recordings, and I have my own recording setup, which I guess helps. I am by no means an expert in music production. I have a very basic setup and a sort of intermediate knowledge that can kind of get me passable recordings. But it's clearly worked in the cases of the jobs I've been booked for. I'm not gonna spend too long here. If you wanna know how to set up an Airgigs profile, there's loads of other things on the internet that will tell you how to do that. But from my experience, it's worth it. So let's go on to money-making method number 4. For money-making method number 4 that I personally use, I'm gonna talk about guitar tuition. Now, this isn't something that I particularly publicize or really want to lean into any more than I currently do. But if you are a master of an instrument, even if that's vocals, or you're just a master of songwriting, or I don't know, insert musical craft, then chances are you can become a tutor of that craft. I guess I'm putting this on the video list as a suggestion for those that might have thought about maybe doing a bit of tuition, especially alongside things like busking. But for me personally, it's not something that I plan on doing unless I have to. Luckily for me, the only 2 people I teach or have taught over the last 3 years are 2 friends of mine. Now, because they're my friends and we have a good relationship, we worked out a way of doing this that benefited us all. In the interest of staying flexible for all of us, we decided that we wouldn't do like a set day at a set time every week. Instead, we just agreed that we would do 4 hours of tuition every month, and they paid me on a monthly basis. So some weeks we would do a 2-hour lesson, and then we wouldn't do a lesson for another 2 weeks where we do another 2-hour lesson. Sometimes we do 1 hour, and then we try and fit another hour somewhere else. It didn't always work out. Sometimes we wouldn't do the full 4 hours, but they agreed to pay me a monthly rate for the 4 hours anyway. As the pandemic wore off and people went back to their jobs, and these 2 guys did just that, there's been dips and we've gone in and out of tuition. So it hasn't been completely consistent, but luckily since then I discovered busking. So, you know, busking saved everything, as it always does. To give you an idea of what I was charging, it was £150 per month for the 4 hours. From my experience, guitar tutors are usually somewhere between £25 and £50 an hour, depending on their level of expertise. I mean, you've got to charge what you think is what it's worth. You're passing on quite a valuable skill, and you're giving somebody the access to the world of music. There are many resources online to sort of help you become a guitar tutor. There are many good YouTube channels on guitar tuition. Go and check some out if you're, you know, up for that world. Now, one thing I will say is I don't really see myself doing any more guitar tuition than I already do. I don't really foresee myself taking on any new students or whatever you'd call them. But one thing I am interested in doing as August Radio Project is making some sort of tutorial based videos. A couple of you have expressed interest in learning how to play the songs in the way I play them. So somebody left a comment about When I Come Around by Green Day. They'd be interested in knowing how I play that and how I approach it and how I break it down. And that's something I'm definitely interested in doing. So if that's something that might interest you, then let me know in the comments. I'm also kind of up for doing some kind of busking tutorial. Maybe like a bedroom beginner to playing out on the street style online course. I know you don't need a course to be able to go busking, and I'm not saying that you should do a course, but from experience, I know how valuable it is to have some direction and somebody pointing you in a specific way that will, you know, take you from jamming in your room to actually going out on the street and discovering the magic of busking for yourself. Again, if that's something that might interest you, then let me know in the comments. And I guess that brings me on to money making method number 5. Now, I won't lie to you, I have put this one in the list for pure novelty, to give you a real idea of just how little us musicians make from streaming. Yes, releasing music. It does earn you money, I guess. If you don't already know, big streaming companies like Spotify only pay 0.003p per stream. So when a musician releases music, they have to use what's called a distributor. And there are many different distributors to choose from. I think the most popular one at the moment is probably DistroKid. I have personally used one called Emu Bands. And that's because when I released these sort of demo tracks that I have out as August Radio Project, I didn't know about DistroKid. But they're all pretty similar. They do a similar thing. You send your music to the distributor and they put it on all the streaming platforms. So from music sales, I'll tell you how much I've made. So in the time that I have been August Radio Project, which is 3 and a bit years, I have made a complete total, and this is over 3 years by the way, of £155.53. That's like a good day's busking in Hastings. £52 or something per year. Yep. Like I said before, this isn't about getting wealthy. In the early stages of a musician's career, it's kind of about survival. Living and surviving as a human in a, relatively good way in the modern world. So there you have it. My 5 main income streams as a musician, full time, without having a huge following. Yet. We're still building, and the ARP journey continues. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it's been helpful, valuable, and maybe slightly entertaining. If you like the video, then be sure to hit the like button. If you're new around here, then click subscribe. I'd love to have you along. Get involved in this wonderful busking community full of lovely musicians who just, you're so supportive of me and of each other. And that's so rad. If you are a true fan, you can turn the notifications on. I just got my mixes back from my songs I've recorded, and they're so good. I can't wait to release them. I'm still having some thoughts about ideas to raise a budget to make some rad music videos. I think it's needed. I think it's very, very much needed. I'm August Radio Project. I make videos that come out every Monday. Until then, you can watch the one that comes up on the screen, or go and check out the many others on my channel. Peace, love, happiness. See you in the next one.